no more. You can tell it's like, oh no, dude, you should watch that. You should go. Yeah. When you're on the same page, it makes cool. It's cool conversation.
It's funny with the MCU stuff specifically because so Iron Man came out, the first one like 2008 maybe, somewhere around there. I'd seen before about, I don't know, 6 months ago, I'd seen maybe 3 Marvel movies total. I saw Iron Man. I think I saw Iron Man 2, and I don't remember what the Hulk movies maybe. Anyway. And so I was totally like, yeah, whatever, superhero movies. I hear they're good. I just never got around to seeing them. And then it's just been, it was like, about, I don't know, 4 or 6 months ago. I don't remember exactly, but in preparation for doing a podcast on the Marvel universe and just kind of the hero archetype on it, was like, all right, I should probably rewatch at least a couple of those, and ended up watching pretty much all of the movies. I haven't really watched any of the shows, but it was just so funny because I feel like I didn't really realize it, but there were some people who were like, what do you mean you've never seen Captain America? Like, I just never really cared and never bothered. Now I have seen it, and I'm kind of like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm glad I did. But it is funny how people get about, what do you mean you've never seen? And I get that way too,
They talk about the check marks requirements. You got to meet the requirement. If you're part of today's society, social thing, everybody saw those. Everybody's into this. Everybody's into that. What do you mean you're not?
Yeah. We're
like me with some music. Some people like, oh, the new Rihanna song or this or Beyonce song or this song, and I'm like, no, I don't listen to that. What? You don't know that? You never heard that song? Like, no, I don't. Nope.
Yeah. Music's a big one with the pop music, where people are like, oh, you know that Kanye song? I'm like, no, if it's a Kanye song, I don't know it. I just don't know it. I don't.
Well, newer Kanye, his first 1 or 2 albums, like, oh, okay.
There are times where somebody, it'll come on, and I'll hear, and I'm like, oh yeah, I recognize this song. Who is this? Well, it's Kanye. It's like, oh, that's okay. Now I know.
And at least that's the name we can pronounce, Kanye, because there's some of these other artists, little whatever, and some of the, what does Devlin call them? The mumble rap people. Like, really? See, so we can delve into that area too, as far as music. What the heck has happened to music? What people think is music is like, yeah, there are tones and free, but so much artificial stuff. There's no real instruments being played. There's no actual, voice talent skills of harmonizing. No, it's it's like, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's that. as big a, I don't know how much we want to go into it, but as big a tool for programming and manipulation and mind control as movies are, I think pop music is even more so, and it's even more subtle, and it's even more ritualistic. And I have gotten back into thinking about that in those terms, music in those terms, particularly in the last few months, as I've been preparing this particular presentation. Point is, I rewatched Mark's Demystifying the Occult. I think it was part 2. Yeah, because it was the dark occult one. And he showed in that presentation a clip from YouTube that was an interview with a Satanist from the late 80s. And it was this guy named Nicholas Schreck. And it was on public access from the late 80s. And it was Race and Reason with whatever that guy was that was the face of
Christianity or something,
to a lot of people in the 80s, because he had wrote some books and had that hosted that show. Gary Metzger or something was his name. I can't remember. Anyway, and so as I rewatched that and rewatched that interview, and Mark said something offhanded during that presentation where it was like, to his credit, from what I understand, he got out of the Satanic Church later and became a Buddhist. And, and then he just kind of went on. And so I was like, well, I wonder where this person is now. And come to find out, he's podcasting and really doing some really cool stuff in terms of telling people, like, this is the whole issue with LaVeyan Satanism, and this is why it's bad, and this is what we got to watch out for. And it's, one of those things where it's like, man, 20-30 years ago, this guy was at the core of the LaVeyan Satanic Church. He was, I don't know, married to, but life partners with Zena LaVey, the daughter of Anton LaVey, and at the core of it. And he was on that interview saying that the problem with the Satanic Church is we need to do more to make Nazism, like the Third Reich, look like kindergarten. And now he's like, totally come out of it, and totally not totally, but in a lot of you come out of the Satan worship and the devil worship side of it, and come into he's still very much interested in the darkness and the dark aspect of the human psyche, but from a standpoint of acknowledging it and at least dealing with it, as opposed to just letting. Anyway, but he has been a musician. That's his main entree was with music, and he continues to talk about music since the 60s particularly, and more pop music is just ritual done right out in front, for people to consume and people to not even realize. Whereas with some movies, you see, like, think of like The Ninth Gate and Rosemary's Baby and The Omen and some of these movies where it's like there's some really kind of dark ritualistic aspects going on, but they're packaged in such a way where you kind of understand, at least on a deep subconscious level. But like, you wouldn't expect Britney Spears to be blatant in your face, satanic ritualism. And that's exactly what Hit Me Baby One More Time is. And that's exactly what Toxic is. And that's what a lot of Britney Spears music is just top 40 Satanism. And it's marketed to kids. Whereas, no kid's going to go watch The Ninth Gate with Johnny Depp. No kid's going to go watch the Roman Polanski movies about satanic ritualism. They're going to find ways to get it in such a way where they can play it at school and nobody's saying anything. Anyway.
Yeah, you that's a good point, that access, and then or accessibility, and then who wants it. See, so when films and TV shows, some form of effort is required on your part to actually go looking for it, to turn it on, to whereas music, that's kind of just, innocent bystander kind of effect, because you can be in somebody's car and they just have the radio on and bam, you're getting that. You can be at a mall, at a store, on an escalator, elevator music, it's there. You don't even have to look for it. Depending where you are, you might be a victim, an innocent bystander of, pop music with messaging. Whereas films and TV shows, you kind of have to make an effort to go to that. It's not going to be directed at you. So that is pretty interesting.
That's a good point.
And earlier in the recording, you were talking about the films and things, the mainstream, how it, its progression, and something stood out to me with like the 30s and 40s and maybe even the 50s, when you were talking about the movie theaters. You have to sit there and take it in and all this stuff. And, now at home, you're separated from everybody but there was another transition stage in there with the radio. Remember how you'd have like family sitting around, and they'd have the radio and everybody's just sitting there looking or just listening to it. And the skill or the productions needed to tell a story to keep people entertained. And they'd have the sound effect, ding, and oh, Johnny, what's going on here? Oh, and so it was a big production, but everybody would gather together for that event and use their imagination, listening to the words as that was painting a picture, so that's pretty interesting. And then, that was one phase of that state or use of technology. And the sorcerers were brilliant with that. Like, oh, we can use this, and who has the skills and talents, and they really went for it. And then you move on to films. Now get everybody, in theaters. Every city, every town has a theater, and have people 200, 300, 400 at a time. Message. Now it's like, well, shit. Everybody has labs or computer screens, laptops, and tablets. Now we can pinpoint and just get the individual, just message here, stream, binge watch this, watch this movie on demand. You don't even need to schedule 8 or 9 o'clock at night to sit in front of your TV. It's up to you. 4 o'clock in the morning, you can just log in and boom, you message. So it's interesting, the evolution or de-evolution or progression of the mind control, system and mainstream entertainment, movies, TV shows. It's an interesting study to step back and see this whole progression and how from big audiences down to the individual and everything in between.
What really blows me away is that these are concepts that I'm sure there were others, but the main one that stands out to me, these are concepts that Marshall McLuhan was talking about and writing about in the 60s. Like, this is where this is going, guys. We have this television as a potentially really useful educational tool, but watch out for X, Y, and Z. And we've thrown all the educational aspects out the window, and all the warning, danger. That's the stuff that we've embraced almost exclusively culturally about, here's the poison side of this. I'm not saying that, you can't use this naturally occurring thing for health benefits, but don't take too much. I've gone, and we've gone, I wonder why we feel sick as a culture. So if only someone was warning us, and they were.
Nobody was listening to poor ratings.
Yeah,
the ratings are poor. Yeah, or you had to go looking for that because that wasn't aired freely and distributed. Like, look, this is important. This is for your health, for your own good. Oh no, we don't want this. That affects our bottom line. People aren't going to watch our movies, and the Nielsen ratings are going to go down if they know this stuff. So keep people away from that. The censorship stuff. Again, this ties in with something, with a little bit of what Larkin Rose talks about in his video about how tyranny and dictatorship works is by making the propaganda big and loud and everybody, you're part of us and way to go, part of the team, and demonizing the people that question and go off on their own. It was like, oh, look at them. Look at what's wrong with them, Mm-hmm. So it's all connected. It's all ties together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And then you look at, it tends to be the people who go off on their own and maybe find a few other like-minded individuals that then come back to the greater culture with some kind of staggering work of, you remember how you didn't want to hear what we had to say? Well, let us put this big mirror up to your face and this artifact that we've created, this artwork that's come out of this, and put that back in your face as far as culture goes. I think if James Joyce and Ulysses is saying, you think that anarchism and individualism is such a bad thing. Well, let me go just be an individual and do my own thing, and then turn around and hold up a mirror to, this is what you are. You're all individuals, and you just are ignoring it, and you're just not wanting to acknowledge that we all go through these things. We all piss and shit, and we all have all these bodily functions. And just because you're not talking about them in art, just because you're not talking about them in literature, doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means that you're not willing to acknowledge that bit of the truth of reality. Mm-hmm. And it takes an outcast and an individual sometimes to say, you know what? I can talk about things that the mainstream doesn't want people to talk about because I'm not part of that. Screw that. I don't need that. Mm-hmm. And some great, that's one of the neat things about the kind of corrective effect of, you've got the mainstream that everybody's going along with, the direction that everybody's going along with. Then there's, these people outside of it that come and whack it back hopefully into closer alignment with reality and get them out of there. Well, yeah, just everybody, we're doing this right now, right? Yeah, okay, we all kind of know it's wrong, but we're just all doing it. No, and they get something that comes along, hopefully, and kind of, works as a corrective force. And
before it gets hijacked and labeled as woke. I'm woke. We're part of the woke community. Oh, damn it.
And that's the pole swinging back in the opposite direction. It's that's the rhythm. And that's why it takes constant vigilance to create, and it takes constant vigilance to stay free. Was that the Thomas Paine or Thomas Paine, about, freedom takes constant vigilance. And
Mhm.
it's one thing about, I don't need to be constantly vigilant because I've got the next episode of this that's been granted to me on my slab. And I don't need to be vigilant about my freedom because I've got this to watch instead. All right. So I would like to know from you, what are the what's on your must-watch list? Not necessarily things that have just come out or are coming out, but I would be interested to hear, what are some of your just either personal favorite movies or just things that you're, regardless of how you feel about them, it's worth watching them. Because I've got a few movies on my list where it's like, I don't think this is a particularly good movie, but you should watch it. So I hit me with some things, because I'm always curious as to what particular things people are into.
Well, there's the obvious mainstream ones. We can go there. Obviously, the Star Wars is the original 3 Star Wars, which are actually episode 4, 5, and 6. We got the Matrix, at least the first one, but the whole trilogy. We got Hunger Games is good stuff. Then let me see. It's interesting. Francesco and I recently watched, and I talked to him about this. We didn't do a video about it, but we watched. I was doing most of the Friday the 13th, and watching Friday the 13th, the final chapter, the 4th one, is very interesting as far as displaying the defensive use of force, especially showing the age that you don't have to be an adult, a mature, moral adult with responsibilities to do the right thing, to take action. And what I mean by that, anyone who's seen these films, or some spoiler alerts, but you have like a 12, 13-year-old kid, Tommy, all right? And Jason's the bad guy, and he's killing the little drug using, alcohol drinking, sex crazed teenagers, because that's all evil. But yeah, so he's killing and all that. And, one of the next door neighbors is a family, and Tommy's a little kid. And Tommy is, when Jason's attacking the sister, Tommy's the one that grabs a machete that Jason had, and he starts whacking away at Jason. It's like, oh my God, he's doing violence against violence. That's not. No, New Age bullshitters. He's using defensive use of force. He's accessing the sacred masculine. He's accessing dipping into the psychopath to, Jason's crazy chopping up people. Guess what? Little Tommy, 12, 13-year-old, he uses. That is a perfect example of defensive use of force, regardless of your age. So that stood out to me when I watched it. I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting that this was in that Friday the 13th film. Just by itself, just for that was very interesting. And then recently I shared with Francesco, he had never heard or seen this film, but this is another good recent one from, actually, no, 2011, this film came out. And this has a lot of good stuff in there too, is The Cabin in the Woods. Have you seen or heard that one? Right?
Yes, I was thinking about that as you're talking about Jason.
Yeah.
One of my favorite new kind of slasher horror send-ups was Cabin in the Woods. Yeah.
Right. Because that one, they just show so many little intricacies behind the scenes of like, why is it that in horror movies the hero always drops the gun or drops the knife or something? Here's when they show that you got people controlling things and it's electric shock and they just drop. It's like, well, what? Why is it that people make bad decisions? Oh, they start spraying some kind of chemical to fog people. Why is it that people are horny and the wrong guy? Oh, they start releasing pheromones or whatever. Oh, so it's interesting how this movie, and then why? Sacrifice to please the gods. And it's like, and it's not just here in the States, it's not just Illuminati, it's worldwide. It's going on in Asia and freaking Africa. It's like interesting. So yeah, Cabin in the Woods is another good one.
And the undertone with that movie, that it's necessary to keep the world going as it is, the little amount of comfort and dominion that we have, the only way we keep it going is by continuing the sacrifice ritual or action. And if somebody's got to appease the gods in the right way, if they do it wrong or don't do it right in Japan, it's even more incumbent that we do it right here or whatever. Yeah, that's a great movie. Yes.
Yep. And then now with something you said about keeping it the same, avoiding change, another animated film that I shared with Francesco that he was kind of like, holy shit, I never realized this was the 2014 film. I think it came out in 2014, the Lego movie. Have you seen the?
Haven't seen
Watch the Lego movie.
I will.
You watch the Lego movie, and that's the film that's like interesting. You got little subliminal things that some of the characters, a president, he's on the TV and like, oh yeah, this and that and this and that, and do this. Don't forget to do this, or I'm gonna enslave you. And it's like, wait, what? Just little subliminal things, and they show like little surveillance cameras watching everything. It's like Big Brother's watching. It was like, wait, this is a kids movie. What the hell? There's a lot of nice little things in the visuals and even the song. There's new agey stuff in the song. It's like everything is awesome. Everything is great when you're part of the team. So it's like, oh my God, yes, all this is very interesting film. A lot of good stuff in there. And then spoiler alert stuff. It's obviously a kid that's playing with Legos, you know, in the real world, but we're watching the Legos as animated doing their stuff. Right. And they're trying to find the what is the piece of resistance. And it's a cap that goes on the crackle. We need to do, what is that? So the cap of resistance is a cap that goes on the crazy glue. The crackle is crazy glue, but some of the letters are erased. So crazy glue with Lego, if you glue crazy glue to Lego pieces, they stay stuck. They don't change. It stays the way you want it forever. But the cap of resistance is you got to plug the crackle. Put a you know, get rid of that crazy glue. Let the pieces move wherever you want. See, freedom. So it's interesting. Very brilliant how they work that into the story, the crackle and the cap of resistance. And it's like, it's very good stuff. So the Lego movie is another film that's very interesting. And tying back to something you were talking about earlier with film going to the movies. When I saw this in 2014, I was still very active with my meetup group. I watched this movie when it came out opening weekend, and it was so good and had me like, oh my God, I gotta tell people about this. That I scheduled a meetup for the following weekend, and about 7 or 8 of us met up at the theater, watched the movie at one of the malls, and after that, we sat in the food court and we had a discussion for about an hour or two about it. So that is positive stuff. See the movie, get the ideas, and then discuss it afterwards and like, wow, that was interesting. I didn't notice this. Well, I noticed that. And it was that's the way it should work. So
I totally agree. And there's not, you know, I remember doing that, and I've done it at different points and different, you know, it was something we didn't do it frequently, but when we go to a movie as a family, and then even just if it was driving back from
the drive home, you
know, we were talking about it, and I was fortunate to have that experience. And now, you know, that in high school you would go to, I remember many times. So there was a big movie theater. It was one of those. I grew up in South Denver in Colorado, and very nice suburban area. And we had a couple like 12 and 8, or 6 and 8 and 10 movie theaters. And then they built a 24 screen theater. And it was like, I was just getting into high school, and it was like, that was the place to be. And then there was a Denny's or Village Inn, either way, a place that was open really late, right up the street, and basically the same kind of shopping complex. And so it was, you know, go to the movie and then go sit and drink coffee, eat, you know, split a plate of French fries between 5 kids because we only had, you know, $2 a piece to spend after the movie, and sit down and talk about the movie. And that's something that, you know, I don't know if kids now are ever going to have the chance to experience, where you go see a film and then actually take time out to then discuss it. And it's, to me, such an important part of the whole experience that it's a shame not to have.
I think they just do it over the phone. Oh my God, OMG, did you see that? LOL, that was just so funny. Oh my God, yes. And screen share, selfie. I'm at the theater. Look, it's like that's the new modern way of interacting.
Yeah.
It's like, geez.
Too bad.
It's
too bad.
But yeah, those are some of the films right there that are kind of like, damn. Another good one. You were talking about something earlier, and Francesco and I mentioned this in one of the movie ones that we did discussions. Tomorrowland is a Disney film that's also very good, with George Clooney and Hugh Laurie is in there. And that's an interesting film, again, with a little bit of like the alternate Earth, like things happening here, and it's global warming and oh my God, climate change stuff. And it gets into that pushing that agenda.
Mm-hmm.
But the twist comes in that, you know, these scientists and creative minds back in the 50s and 60s in Disneyland, you know, the world of tomorrow, they figured out a technology to go into an alternate reality, into another Earth where everything's beautiful and fine there. So they create a machine, this mechanical machine thing, to transmit to this reality the warnings. It's like, look, everything's fine here, and stop doing what you're doing over there, and stop doing what you're over there. You're causing trouble. You're causing trouble. But what is the message that we receive here? Oh, disaster films, end of the world stuff. Oh, great. Right. Give us more of that. That's entertaining. So the message gets misinterpreted as entertainment. Like, yes, more please. And we keep fueling it. So it's very interesting. Tomorrowland, Tomorrow World, or whatever, how they, So that to me stood out. I was like, very interesting.
I'll have to check that out. That sounds really good, because that's something that I've seen. I don't remember if I put it in the notes here, but regarding science fiction movies becoming less of a, you know, I feel like the science fiction movies I grew up with were, and books too, especially books, were like, warning, don't do this, stop relying on technology for every little thing because it could lead to this. And now we've gotten to a point where most of the science fiction movies that I've seen, especially the big mainstream ones in the last 10 or 15 years, are like, you know, and I think of Ready Player One, especially especially the book, but the movie does it too. And the movie kind of glosses over it and makes it very subliminal and kind of just assumed part of the nature of the universe of that movie, as opposed to the book talks about it a little more explicitly and makes you kind of have to sit with it and deal with it a little more explicitly. But the idea that Ready Player One takes place in 2040 or 2045, I think. And the whole idea is there was this big, you know, all of the global warming problems and all the supply chain and all the fossil fuel stuff has happened. All, you know, the Hubbard peak has been crossed to the point where most people don't have access to reliable sources of energy. But we do have this virtual reality oasis where everybody can go, and thank God for that. And it's like, it's gone from a like warning to like, well, since you all didn't heed the warning, here's just what to expect from the future, to the point where there's no communication of the fact that like you can make different choices. It's kind of like that hero. It's like you're just stuck with what is and you can't control it. So you might as well find the most enjoyment out of it. You might as well plug into the virtual reality matrix and just say, fuck it, and go enjoy the fact that you can drive a simulated DeLorean in the metaverse because you'll never drive a real car in real life.
And yeah, so that what you said there is perfectly illustrated or touched on in Tomorrowland.
I have to check that out,
because it's in there. It's a young girl. It's like a teenage girl that George Clooney kind of stumbles upon, and she still has some of that creative, you know, like, well, wait, what if, you know, and that's the thing. It's like, what if, and that creates a little glitch in the machine thing as it's transmitted. Like, wait, what was that? It's you know, it's inevitable. This is what humanity's gonna do. It's like, no, all you need is a few minds to be like, yeah, but wait, could it be different? And boom, oh my God, questioning what is definitely gonna be starts creating issues for, you know, the future. And that's all it takes. Is, you know, again, like I said, that little line from Star Trek V, you know, William Shatner's Kirk saying, excuse me, just one person asking a question, like raising, excuse me, and woo, the control systems do not like, excuse me, what if, how about, why is,
yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And there was a couple of other things now, just thinking about it. What other movies were there? What was a good one? Damn. Oh, crap. Brain farts suck when you get to my age. Even though I look younger, now that I shaved everything off, you don't see the grays. It's like, oh, look, 20, 30-year-old, a little bit heavy set, but no, a little over 50. Ooh, shit. But yeah. Damn, what other movies were there? There was movies as far as emotional content, little tear-jerking kind of stuff. It was like, oh man, that was so good. August Rush is a nice film with movie and music ties together, and belief, you know, and then the, you know, little kid using music and making music and the story. And
Was that
that's a beautiful movie.
was that Robin Williams was in that?
Robin Williams was in there.
Yeah, that's like the one Robin Williams movie I haven't seen. I was just talking about that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. August Rush is a good film. It's good, tear jerking kind of thing, because again, when we talk about filmmaking and music scores and music itself, how things complement each other. That's a film. Without the music, the film will be nothing. And the music by itself, without the film, will be like, and that gels nicely because they go together. It tells the story one with the other. So that's a good film. That
makes me think of another movie that I thought was a really a nice way. I thought the soundtrack was great and really reinforced the storytelling, but it was The Soloist with Robert Downey Jr. and Jamie Foxx, which the movie was pretty good. But I thought the soundtrack and the scoring was extremely strong, and really it took it from being a mediocre movie to a pretty good movie. But
I'll have to watch that again. I have it sitting on that side. It's over there. This is starts the zeros through A, and that only gets to like L down here, and then the M's, ST's, and then the V, Z.
That's a lot.
And then
movies.
The 4Ks are over there, and then DVDs are in the living room. But yeah, Soloist is somewhere over there. I think I only saw that once in the theater, but I do have the Blu-ray, and it's been years since I've seen that. So Electro and Iron Man are in the movie together. Nowadays you can break down everything to MCU terms, because every actor or everything has been played somebody in an MCU now. After 24, 25 movies, it's like shit.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, I know there's still a lot of movies out there, depending, how you watch it, the intention and all that. The Warriors, I always like The Warriors, 1978 film, that's very good. Have you seen that? The Warriors?
Yeah.
Just the beginning, the way they can touch on anarchy, like the people without the state against the police, outnumbering them, it's our turf. We outnumber them, 1,000 to 1, and all this kind of stuff. Our turf. But then they got to twist it and put some kind of poison in there. Therefore, the ones, taking down the system, now they become the rulers. It's like, oh man, why you got to poison it? But yeah, there's plenty of films out there with good, messages. What else was there? But yeah, that's a good amount.
The 70s was my experience with films of the 70s, which is somewhat limited. But nonetheless, I feel like there were a lot of movies in the 70s that not just wouldn't get made today, but the whole approach to making movies seemed a lot different even than in the 60s. I think the 60s had some safe movies. I think the 70s, there were some movies that would they really tried to push some envelopes in different unexpected directions. I always think of one of my favorite movies from the 70s was Warren Beatty. I think it was in the 70s. It must have been The Parallax View.
Yes, 1977, 78.
Yeah, that's what I would get. And just like that movie, I just don't think, I don't know, maybe it would get made today, but it just seemed like a different kind. It just had
there's things that would be toned down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also in the 70s, you got Network. Network is another one.
Absolutely. Yeah, yep. That's a good one. And then I can never remember if it's Sagittarius 1. I think it's Capricorn 1.
Capricorn 1.
Capricorn 1.
1973-ish or something.
Yeah.
O.J. Simpson.
The fake. Yeah. O.J. Simpson,
James Brolin.
Sam Waterston.
Yep.
What's his name? That was The Big Lebowski, and The Big Lebowski was the center. Anyway, but like movies like that, I just don't. It would be very different. It would be a very different, because that's not a science fiction movie. And I feel like if it were made today, it would be made into a science fiction movie. And that's a movie about the potential corruption and corruptibility of media, because it's about how you could manipulate a space trip. But yeah, that's a really good movie, and one I hadn't seen till very recently, maybe in the last 6 months. I wasn't even aware it existed until I happened across it and was like, wait, what is this? Oh, I have to watch it. Like, that was a cool movie. And the 70s just had movies like that where it's just like, I don't think that would be attempted.
Yeah, and if they do, it's all watered down. It's like GMO, genetically modified movie. They just take out all the key stuff and leave you with fluff. Totally. It's just,
Totally. I
But
felt
there's
that way
an
about the Stepford Wives. If you look at the
the
original
remake.
Stepford Wives and then the
Okay.
remake, it was
Hmm.
good, but it was just, yeah, it had it had some fluff injected into it, and it wasn't quite as gritty, and it wasn't quite as,
Manchurian Candidate, same
yeah,
thing,
yep.
original as opposed to the remake. Yeah, remakes usually, yeah, it's like what the hell. There's a black and white film from the 60s that also has a good message in there. However, recently I kind of fast forwarded through it for the key scenes, and at the ending, I was like, "Oh, damn it! Is this how it ended?" And I was like, "God damn, what a letdown!" It's a film with the guy from the Rockford Files, and I forgot his name,
James Garner.
James Garner, and it's the Americanization of Emily.
Emily, yeah.
That's a good one because there's dialogue in there, conversations, and that's written. The screenplays by is it Patty something Patty, the guy who wrote Network, and this is someone else with. They have the consciousness, whether they're like uh, dark occultist or light occultist that is able to put truth and conscious in the stories and the dialogue, whatever in the screenplays. But yeah, the Americanization of Emily has quite well written characters. The dialogue is smart and witty, and it's very detailed. It's like wow, provocative in the thoughts. But at the end, watching, I was like, oh shit, this is what the character ended up doing. Yeah, it's kind of like good. And at the end, they kind of like, well, this movie got made, so we got to kind of leave a sour taste at the end. But overall, it's still a good film, a good message
Mm-hmm.
as far as military service, and oh, the brave men, and no, they're not brave men. All of them are scared. They're crying, want to go home to mom. They don't want to be there, but yet back here, everybody's praise is like, oh, heroic. They fought for our freedoms and all this stuff. And the people here, the mothers, the parents, the wives, and the governments or whatever, they're the ones that prop that false narrative of like, oh, how great they were and all this stuff. But it's like, no, these people were sacrificed for something they really, they were afraid, and that you're glorifying them. And so that's really touched on in the movie by the character, by James Garner's character, when he's a military guy, officer, and interacts with people, and they're like, oh, you're so like, actually, no, I'm a coward. I don't like that. I don't want, and it's like, wow. So yeah, every once in a while, there's a clip that I would share like on Facebook. In fact, I think I need to do it this year. I haven't done it, but there's a clip that's like, yeah, share, and people watching like, especially during Veterans Day or Memorial Day and stuff, it's good to put things in perspective and be like, yeah, there's the propaganda and there's the reality of things. Yeah. And that film does a good job of showing that.
Yeah. And two movies that stick out kind of along that line as far as movies, actually three movies now I think about it, that are military-ish movies, but kind of talk more about the realities of it. And I'll kind of do them in order here. Chronologically, Born on the 4th of July, where he's come back and seeing the world differently, having been in Vietnam. Tigerland, which is a very much overlooked movie, but that was Colin Farrell, and it's based on a novel. It was maybe late 90s, but the premise, the whole movie takes place in basic training, and they're at Tigerland, which was a training facility in Louisiana. And Colin Farrell is basically, you should watch this movie if you haven't seen it. You would appreciate it. But he shows up like, I don't think any of this is legitimate. I think this is all bullshit. And yeah, I'm here because I got drafted and I chose to show up, but this is all bullshit. And they basically, like, the rest of the guys in his platoon are like, you should be in charge. And so he's a little squadron. They make, turn him into the squadron commander. And he's just like, all right, whatever. None of the, not taking any of this thing of it seriously. And it's a really neat movie, but about somebody coming in with a slightly different perspective and just not buying into the brainwashing and not, taking the breakdown of their previous thought patterns into their mind, and not allowing themselves to be crafted into a cookie cutter. And so that's a really good movie. But and then the final one that I kind of thought is Jarhead, with Jake Gyllenhaal, which, he goes over there expecting to be this great, strong American warrior, and he ends up just hoofing around the desert doing nothing and just is like, why the hell did I even do this? So yeah, there's a few good movies about in that vein of the Americanization of Emily that jumped out at me when you said that. So yeah, Tigerland, if you haven't seen it, very strong movie and a very neat perspective on how one can deal with the face of deal with how one can act in the face of people who would say, you have to be like this, you have to do that, you have to fall in line, you have to. And he's just like, yeah, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. I mean, I'll get up and I'll run, I'll do the 5-mile run or whatever, and I'll do that. But like, I'm not taking it seriously. So
resisting the program.
Yeah.
Best of your ability.
Oh, there's so many movies.
There are. When you start scrapping, look at all this crap I got back here. And a whole bunch of them, there's like 50-50. A whole bunch of them are mainstream. Say, oh yeah, I heard of that. And a whole bunch of us like, never heard of that. I just go through some of the stores. It's like a buy, sell, trade kind of store here, a chain out here called Zia Record Exchange. And I just go through the bins and I'm like, yeah. Seen that. Oh, what's this? And then I read it. I'm like, oh, decent director. Oh, the cast. And then, okay. Pick it up. And it's sometimes in the clearance bin, $1, $2, $3, $5. It's like, okay, just throw it on here. And they'll sit there for months or a year. And then I'll just go to, oh, I never saw this. Pull it out, watch it. And I'm like, holy shit, that was awesome. I never bothered watching it. What the hell? And then next thing you know, I'm online and sharing it with people and like, dude, you got to watch this movie, or check out this scene. This movie, little known movie, had this excellent scene. Listen to this. And so yeah, that's usually how it works.
Yeah. And that's one of the neat things about, just the variety and the amazing amount of movies that have been made. There's so many, and I think it's kind of contingent on making a movie that doesn't just completely get overlooked, year after it's been made. There has to be some bit of truth. There has to be some kernel of goodness or truth or, positive worldview, positive sort of outlook. There has to be some bit of good, and capital G good, in a movie for it to really stand any test of time, or it's got to be just different enough, I guess. There's exceptions to that probably, but there's got to be something redeeming generally in a movie for somebody to be talking about it 5 or 10 years later, to say nothing of 20 or 30 or 50 years later. But I'm very glad anytime I come across a movie like that you're talking about, well, maybe I've heard of it, or I'm aware of it, and then okay, I'll finally sit down and watch it. Go, wow, this is why people still talk about this movie. This is why it still comes up. It's even if it's just one scene or just one exchange, or the premise or the ending or just one bit of it, it's a powerful medium of communication. So
especially the older movies. That now the modern movies are more often or not made for profit. Is it profitable? Is it worth spending 10 million to make this movie? We'll make 20 million. Okay, do it. Not so much the message. Back in the day, which was a Wednesday, by the way. I like that joke. I got that from Dane Cook, stand-up comedian. I love funniest shit. It was like, back in the day, which was a Wednesday, by the way. It's like, oh. But back in the day, movies weren't entirely made for profit. It was just like, oh, there's a good idea. There's a good message. Let's put it out there. And okay, it cost $1 million or $5 million to make, and it didn't make the money back, but it got made. Someone's passion was fulfilled. They put it out there. 10, 20, 30, 40 years later, we go back and stumble upon it and be like, holy shit, wow, that was good. I never heard of this. I think I mentioned something to that effect with in a show with Francesco when I brought up the movie Orca. Everybody knew about Jaws, dun, 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 the great white shark. Around the same time, like a year later, there was a film made called Orca. And synchronistically, the little boat, the boat that was used in Jaws to hunt down Jaws, the shark, was called the Orca. It's like, okay. But a film with Professor Dumbledore from Harry Potter, Richard Harris, he played the main guy in Orca. And that film, another fish movie. Who cares? It's interesting because it's about whalers hunting whales, and they kill this family of whales, the mother and the children, and the male, the father, whatever, he's left, and he freaking sets out for revenge, attacking the humans, their boats, and finds out, and he just freaks out. I was like, wait, it's a freaking whale, a fish. What the? No, but it shows the brilliance, the intelligence, the cycle of life, the connectedness, how we're all bound together on this planet. The speciesism is like, that's a fucking fish. Like, no, it's another sentient being. So it's very interesting the way that film is made, and the music. Ennio Morricone did the music, the theme to that. And there's I think I played it in the Can You Handle the Truth in Music? I think I played that the track from there and talked about it with Francesco. The lady's voice is high pitched, squeaky, is like, but the lyrics are simple, short, and sweet. It's just, we are one, and it's like, dude, come on. I mean, how simple and beautiful does it get? That so yeah, it's very interesting. The good film Orca. I went back and saw that about a year ago, and I was like, man, I forgot this was interesting. When you look at it through that lens, when you look at it like, hey, he's not eating a lot of people. It's just like Jaws. It's another Jaws movie. It's like, no, that's your regular popcorn eating, soda drinking movie gore. Right. That's like, whatever. But someone with consciousness, you look at like, no, there's something here like, wow, that's freaking interesting. That man's disconnection from nature and the other, creatures on this planet. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that sounds cool. I'll have to check that one out too. Tomorrowland, I have to rewatch The Warriors for sure. You've mentioned that a couple of times, and I remember enjoying it. I remember liking it, but I don't remember it that well, so I have to rewatch that. But Tomorrowland and Orca, Tomorrowland sounds really interesting, and it's one of those movies where it's like, how have I not seen that? How is it not?
Because it was Disney. Sometimes it's a Disney movie. Disney. If you Disney falls into, if you're woke, you kind of dismiss it. Oh, Disney with their pedophilic freaking Freemason Disney. Fuck them. We're not watching any of Disney stuff. Not entirely. Sometimes the ones who are in control, sometimes they like to flaunt and mock their stuff, and they put it out there. And Tomorrowland is one of those films you watch it and you're like, dude, I remember literally sitting in the theater like this, watching it, and looking to the side like, you people getting this? They're telling me why. What the? After the movie, being in the restroom, washing my hands, and guys that came out talking about it, and I'm like, they're talking about it for all the wrong fucking reasons. They're like, George Clooney, he was all right. I like him better in Ocean's 11. This, I'm like, see, so it's just interesting. Yep.
And that's another whole. That's a big conversation for a different time. But the whole idea that the people's reaction to the movie can be like that, can be like, well, it wasn't as good as this other George Clooney movie that has nothing to do, Ocean's 11, which has nothing to do with Tomorrowland, just happened to have the same actor in it.
It shows the level of consciousness. The program they're running is like, no, it only meets my criteria for good or bad if it meets these requirements. It's like, really? That's it. What about all this? And they don't even know the rest of it exists.
It's relative not to truth, not to beauty, not to art, not to any of that. It's relative to George Clooney's other movies. And just, there we are, or it's Disney, so I'm not going to watch it. I've got 3 grandkids. I'm very interested in what Disney's putting out there because I know they're watching it. And I want to make sure that if they're watching something that's clearly inspiring Satanist worldview, that I at least know about it enough to have the opportunity to talk about it should it come up, or my 5-year-old nephew, if he's exposed to, I have to watch Encanto now because it's like his favorite thing and I haven't seen it yet. And he keeps talking about it. And I need to be able to say, I'm not his parent, but I want to be able to be in a position where if he's saying, oh, this and that about it, and I can say, when you think about this, that doesn't really, is that realistic, or is that character really doing the right thing, or just being conscientious about how I'm dealing with these young humans around me and the world that they're observing and the world that they're exposed to and the world that they're being brought into, because it goes back to that line from the Truman Show. We all believe the world that's presented to us. And so if the world that's presented to them is one of ego, attachment, Satanism, and me, they're gonna buy into that. Unless they have somebody who says, there's another way of looking at it. There's another way of thinking about that. There's another way of looking at it. And so for me, Disney movies, I embrace watching them and more in the last couple of years because I want to make sure that if my grandkids or my nephew or somebody, sees something and that they don't think that this is necessarily the way that the world is, just because some Satanist pedophile at Disney decided that that's the movie they were going to portray.
Yeah, listening to you, I think of the word awareness. A lot of people don't bother with awareness, because that's all I hear as you're talking about. That's just that one thing is the critical, deciding factor is awareness. Because you're not telling, oh, don't watch this. It's about being aware. You're aware, and you can see like, oh, look, this is the message. This is the subliminal. This is the symbolism. This is the allegory. And a lot of people are not aware of that. Once you tell a child like, oh, look, when you see this, whatever, yeah, you might see this. Look at the candy. Look at the old man with the candy and taking the little girl, to his house or to his ice cream truck for whatever. Okay. But look, be aware of this. This could symbolize this. This could represent that. Oh, okay, I see. So it's about awareness. And then they can watch anything and be like, hey, I see what the movie says, but maybe it means this too. And as far as you're aware, that's part of that defense mechanism, being aware. And it's along the lines of the new age bullshit. It's like, you're thinking negative, avoid the negative and everything will be fine. No, you mean lack awareness. If you're not aware and just take it for what it is, you'll be fine. Like, no, you have to be aware.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I'm so glad that I loved science fiction and was exposed to science fiction movies that were more about warning and more about, hey, be aware of the way that we're using this resource or that tool or this technology, because it really has helped to inform the way that I see, other films, particularly non-science fiction films, because it's, be aware of the way that these two, say a romantic comedy or something, be aware of the way that these two are dealing with, interacting with each other as characters, because the result of that is going to be maybe not romantic comedies, for example, but drama. The way that these two characters are interacting is going to help to bring about consequentially whatever the ending of this movie is. And most of the time, it's not just happenstance. It's not like, well, I think it would be more interesting or more dramatic if, this character dies. Usually when a character dies and you're like, where did that come from? It's because you missed something earlier where the storyteller is putting that character in a situation where they are doing something that is bringing about the consequence of their demise later. Mm-hmm. And when you get attached to just, I hope everything's a happy ending, you miss the storyteller telling you, if you behave like this consequence is likely. And that's something that science fiction did really well. If all of us behave like this, if we all try and merge ourselves with the machine, careful, because we're going to end up living in, Existenz world, or we're going to end up living in the Dark City world, or we're going to end up living in the Matrix or whatever. But that's not just a science fiction trope. That's something that's used in every single movie, just in different manifestation.
I wanted to point out, talking about that, what you said, you made me think of Passio's documentary, Mark Passio and the Science of Natural Law. See, so again, people have been conditioned that, science fiction, that's the only place. It's science and it's space stuff or whatever. That's science, technological stuff, robots, aliens, and the future. That's all science fiction. It's like, no, nature, natural stuff is a science. So, a couple of relationship, how they behave, there are natural laws. There's a science to that. See, so all science applies to everything, even comedies. And as you were talking about, speaking right now, I think it was Top Secret that I recently saw maybe 2 weeks ago. See you laughing. Top Secret with Val Kilmer. Yeah. I think it was that one, if I'm not mistaken, or some other comedy where a character says something, blah, 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 and they look at the camera kind of like, and if that isn't, foreshadowing something to come in later, or that's going to pay off later. And it's like, that's at the beginning of the movie. And sure enough, at the end, consequences, like they say something, and throughout the story, bam, it comes about. It's like, hey, that was foreshadowed.
Mm-hmm.
There's a science. That's how it works. That's natural law, but it's not classified as science fiction. It's a comedy. So yeah, that doesn't qualify. Yeah, dismiss that as science. It's like, very interesting. Yep. What else was there? There was something you were, when you talk about science fiction, two other movies that it's good to watch the kind of similarity and the difference, but that blew me away when I saw the original 1951, I think it was. That was like, wow, that was well written. And that had some balls in the dialogue and the actor the saying what he said. The day the earth stood still. The original one, when that alien, they're like, well, our politicians and the Russian president and this. Well, I'm not here to talk to them. I don't care. I'm here to talk to your, to your true leaders, the scientists, the free thinkers, the ones who speak for the people. It was like, oh, it's like, that was brilliant. And then the remake was pretty good too with Keanu Reeves. Yeah. That had some parts in there too. John Cleese's character, when the warning, and John Cleese says, well, what if we can make a change? What if we can? Well, no, it doesn't look like, well, it's been shown throughout history that right when we're at the precipice, right before then, that's when it's possible to, like, that's true. It's that hand in the fire thing. It's like, dude, don't put your hand in the fire, whatever. But then when you're right there, like, wait a minute, maybe we should, see? So even right there, there's still a possibility at the last minute, the last second to be like, damn, maybe we shouldn't do this. Boom. And now everything else can reset and go in a different direction. So even that little message right there is like, yeah. But then now that can create a false comfort zone for people like, well, it ain't so bad. We're just wearing masks. We're just mandated to get vaccines. We're just like, dude, this is leading somewhere. Like, well, wait till it gets really, really, really bad. Then we'll do something about it. It's like, fuck.
Yeah, you have to be uncomfortable enough to want to make a change, but not so broken that you're too weak to, try and pry the bars of the cage apart,
Yep.
And a lot of times, it's something that movies do from time to time, or a motif that movies use is that character. And I'm thinking V for Vendetta here. She has to get broken down. She has to suffer to a certain degree, but she doesn't get totally broken. But she has to undergo some suffering, and you have to unlearn some things, and you have to suffer for your past actions to a certain extent, to the degree to which you're uncomfortable enough to want to change, but not so broken that you can't.
Right.
And you see that in a lot of movies. And
yep. Right. Like I know Dream Theater, there's one of their tracks from Scenes from a Memory. It's like with a psychiatrist, whatever. Mm-hmm. But he says, death is not the end, but only a transition. Mm-hmm. And that's true. But here's the thing though, transitions are constant the whole time. It doesn't have to be at the end at death to transition. See, that's the ultimate transition is at the end death. But transition can happen. There could be change all throughout life. You can change mistakes and this and learn. And yeah, so transition can be life also. You don't have to wait to the most definitive transition, which is death. So that's kind of interesting, there. That's part of the shadow work. And like you're saying, it was like, oh, change and suffer to change and learn the lesson. But that doesn't mean you have to die. I'm going to die. And that's the fear, because people equate change and transition with death. It's all coming to an end. It's the end of the world as we know it. The world's coming to an end. Yeah, that's not a bad thing. That means the world as you know it is coming to an end. The enslavement, the hierarchy, the chaos, the control, the slavery, it's coming to an end. That means something new and better is on the horizon. So embrace that change. Yes, ask for the world to end. It's not a literal thing. Oh, it's going to blow up and we're all going to die and be gone like that. That's fucked up. See, now that's, now you went to the other side. But you can still, root and want the world to end. Just be clear about what you're talking about. This world, the enslavement, the messed up, the negative stuff. So that's a positive.
And have we, learned enough in this cycle to use this transition to move to another plane? I think that's something that with the Warriors, one of the takeaways from that movie, as I'm thinking about it now that you've mentioned it, if you are in a position where you know enough to destroy the system, but you don't have the awareness, you don't have the perspective, you don't have the consciousness to replace it with something positive, you're just going to have a different band of warlords running the plantation instead of abolishing the plantation altogether and replacing it with something voluntary and consensual. And so oftentimes, and that's maybe kind of one of the things that I've kept coming back to in my mind, but haven't said. And one of the things that I think is really great about movies, as bad as they might be, and as malevolent as some might be, you can learn as much from a lie as you can from truth. And again, it goes back to what you say. It depends on the consciousness of the observer. Somebody with a good bullshit detector can learn as much from being lied to as they could have from being told the truth. But you have to be able to have the tools to handle being lied to and handle putting that in terms of the other experiences you have, doing the trivium on the input, or the logic on the input, comparing it to the other things before you immediately take that lie and make it part of your output. But that's one of the neat things about movies. You could see a totally crap movie that's trying to teach you how to be a Satanist and go, well, that's something that I won't be doing then.
Right. It's like, you can approach it from this different angles. There's the right thing to do. There's what's right. What is right? So you can approach it by learning what to do everything that is right. And then you can learn it by, learning what not to do that is not right. See, so there are things to do that are right, and then things not to do that are right, but both of them lead you to the right action. See kind of it identifies it, like Passio says. What's that phrase? Apophasis. Apophatic. It's like, instead of saying you can do this, well, just narrow it down to what you shouldn't do, what you can't do, what's wrong. It's like, okay, this is what's wrong. Okay, so whatever doesn't fall into what's wrong, that's all the right things to do. So that's it. It's
that, I think it was Rodin, I don't remember for sure. One of those Renaissance sculptors was asked, how do you make that block of marble into a statue? Well, you just cut away everything that's not part of the statue. You just get rid of everything that's not the David, and you're left with the David. That's the apophatic method. You just get rid of everything that's not the thing that you are looking for, and what remains is the thing you're looking for. So,
and that's so amazing that you said that, because as soon as you start talking, I was like, boom, First Blood. I just thought of First Blood at the end. It's like, Colonel Troutman. It's like, I didn't make Rambo into what he is. I just tipped away all the pieces until it's like, boom, there's the same thing, the same quote.
That's exactly it.
Yep. And that's about us doing our work. We have media, religious beliefs, financial beliefs, cultural beliefs, all this stuff on us. And the key is chip all that away and get down to what's true, what's real. And I mentioned something to this effect in a previous podcast. People talking about, what were we talking about? It was in a round table with Joe Murray, Francesco, maybe James Cordner. And it was about, what the heck was it? In the truth movement. Not anarchy, but what's when you don't believe in a God?
Atheism.
Yeah, atheism. And I said, well, maybe the whole thing is that atheism itself doesn't really exist. You believe in something, atheism, you believe in something. And it was like getting people back, getting humanity back. Religion, the true religion isn't go back to when it was all Christianity or before this. No, the true religion is getting each individual back to kind of where they were at birth. Before birth, you didn't have your cultural overtones. You're a Hindu born in India to a wealthy family. Those are things. Oh no, now you're a Republican Christian born in America in red state or blue state, but all those things, as things that we, accumulate So the thing is to strip all that religion, bind back to the way you were when you were born, just innocent, just pure, So
Yeah. Can't remember. I'm looking for the quote. I could be able to find it at the short. Anyway, but the quote is something to the effect of, seeking truth is like finding gold. You just get rid of everything that's not gold, and what remains. And I can't remember. I'm butchering it, but I came across that recently. And yeah, it's like when you're panning for gold, you get a big clump of earth out from the river and you wash everything away, and that's not the gold, and what you're left with is what you were looking for. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, we've mentioned before, I think everybody's mentioned or had this thought at one time or another. I would hope. I know I've mentioned it. Everybody's looking for new things we need to do. We need to start doing, we should do, we need to do. And so much of we need to and should and we should and we need to. And maybe the answer is simply, stop doing. There's a lot of things that have become regular routines that we just do automatically. That's like, stop, question what you're doing and stop doing a lot of that. So it's not new things to do. It's things to eliminate. Again, remove all this other actions, beliefs, and behaviors and everything, and strip all that away. And you'll probably start getting down to like, wow, look, this is what being good, a good person living a good life is. That's it. Because you don't have all this extra baggage and beliefs and other crap, just strip it all away,
Yeah, and it goes back to that busyness, well, what do I do? What do I do? What do I busy myself?
What am I supposed to do? What do I need to be doing?
What do I busy myself with in order to make
you got to keep yourself
busy? If I'm too busy, what do I do to make myself less busy? It's not about what you do to do less. If you're doing too much, the thing that you need to do is stop doing so much and do less. And I think it's, you see those things, my life is too busy. Here are 12 things you do every day to do less every day, or to make yourself less busy. It's like, whoa, wait. So you're saying that the thing I need to do is I need to add another checklist of items that I need to accomplish in order to make myself less busy. No, you're doing it the wrong way. The reason that you're too busy is because you're doing too many things. You need to now look at the things that you don't need to be doing and stop doing those. And then you'll have more time. You'll have more, so it goes back to that busyness. I'm too busy to watch all the shows. How can I watch all the shows? Well, you can't watch all the shows. Stop being so busy.
Yeah. Yep. It's amazing how in the last 5 years, more or less, plus or minus, the term binge watching, that kind of caught on. That's become a cultural norm now. Oh, I binged this show. I binged that. Now we know what it is. There was a time when I was like, you did what? Huh? Oh, I binged. Well, what's that mean? Oh, I just watched one show, one episode after another, and got it all done in one sitting, or over the weekend I binged it. Oh, okay. Boom. I just allowed myself to be programmed with a new, cultural catchphrase of binging. And now I use that. Well, I binged this. I binged Stranger Things. I binged this. I binged that. So,
yeah.
And it's sad that people won't binge. Did you binge Mark Passio's What on Earth is Happening podcast show? No, I didn't binge that. Did you binge, these documentaries on freedom and anarchy and natural law? Oh, no, I ain't binge watched that. Like, okay. Some people have. Yeah, some of us did. You're like, shit, I'm tired. Why? What were you doing? I did like 3 of Mark Passio's shows. Then I watched this documentary on that. Then I did his presentation on streetwise spirituality. And I binge watched that 9-hour natural law seminar. Like good. Okay, cool. Way to go. See?
But no, it's almost like with that stuff, and I'm not talking about just Mark stuff, but stuff on that level that's so packed and so rich. It's almost harder to binge because you have to digest.
Yes.
It goes to the
process.
kind of that food analogy of, yeah, there's tons of movies and media out there now, but so much of it is, the 0-calorie nonsense that in order to feel anywhere near fulfilled, you have to just keep eating and keep eating, keep eating, keep eating. It's kind of why do you sell a big ass bag of popcorn? Why can you sit there because it's something you can eat for 2 hours and not be full? Because there's really no nutritional value, and it goes along well with something where you're just sitting for 2 hours. If that was something that was really high in nutritive value or nutritive dense, nutritiously dense, or whatever the term is, you couldn't eat a big bag of it. And that's, kind of the difference is you can binge watch. I always go to Battlestar Galactica because that was the first show that I think I was like, oh, I binge watched. That's what, when I first heard that term, I was like, oh, that's what I did when I got all the Battlestar Galactica DVDs and just watched them and couldn't stop.
The remakes, right? The Sci-Fi Channel one?
Yeah,
because that's the good. Those 4 seasons, it was like, that's a good show. Aside from movies that I recommend, Battlestar Galactica from Sci-Fi, that had some good stuff there. Everything was very good in there. Again, the same message. Humanity, I'm smart, I'm going to create this thing, and then it gets a life of its own. Now, are you justifying creating it? Because what if what we created us? I have a right to exist. Well, something created us, but now we're a sentient being, so it's wrong to kill us. Well, you created that, now they become sentient themselves. Just because you created, now you think you have the right to destroy that? Responsibility. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, and once you did, that's it. Now the line has been crossed. So very interesting moral and stuff in there.
And you,
a lot of
Francesco and Sean were talking about that and the
Blade Runner
2049, and I was like, yes, that totally reminded me at the time of the robots from Battlestar Galactica, whatever they were called. Cylons. I'm blanking. I should know that. But anyway, but it's versus for example, I've been trying to rewatch a great lecture. It's like 6 hours long or so by David Harriman, called the philosophical perversion of science, philosophical perversion of reality, or philosophical perversion of reality in physics, or in physics. Either way, he basically goes through from Newton to the modern day and talks about the different scientists and philosophers that inform the way that we think of science in the modern day, and how a lot of it is predicated on relativism, and how it seems strange and is kind of a forced thing that physics had to be forced philosophically into a relativistic mindset, because the whole point of science is that reality is not relative to the observer. Reality is objective, and we're trying to study it. Well, how do we get to the point where the physical world is relativistic? Well, that has to do with the philosophers. Anyway, it's a very dense lecture, and it's one of those things where I think, I'll sit down and watch or listen to 2 hours of it, and I get like 35 minutes into listening to it, and it's like I have to stop it, and I have to just like, okay, let me digest, let me stop and take a step back, because it's just so packed, and you can't just,
it's not popcorn. You can't just keep blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the first few bites, and you're like, okay, wait, now I need to chew. I need to swallow this. I need to let the body digest. Yeah. So instead of going down this way into your gut, it's going up into your head, and your brain's like, stop, wait, process. So the trivium, the trivium does have speed limits. It's like,
that's well said.
Input, process, output. It's not like, sometimes, if it's little stuff, okay, done. But sometimes it can be thick, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute. The wheels are turning, and they're turning slow, and it's processing. This may take a while. What is it like when you upload? You're not uploading just 100 megabytes. You're uploading 5 gigabytes. So it's like, oh shit, now this might take 30-40 minutes to process. So you gotta wait a while.
Yeah. Well,
interesting. See how we went all over the place, but it's all connected. That's I like that phrase. It's all connected, because in reality, everything is connected.
So I'm a big fan of Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I think one of the big overlooked, I've thought this for years since I first came across it, I don't know, 15 years ago. One of the major overlooked things in that, and again, this goes back to my love for science fiction, but one of the big overlooked things in the Douglas Adams pantheon is Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. So right as the pandemic started, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit down and, shut in and binge watch everything. I found out that they had made a television adaptation of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, which I highly recommend. But one of the things that wasn't exactly, because the way that the book was written, it's a detective story, and then there was a sequel, and it was similar characters but kind of in very different story. And so the book, or excuse me, the series was not just a remake of the book telling the story of the book. It was taking those characters and putting them in, here's a new detective mystery for them to go and solve. And so it was the characters from the book and kind of their outlook and kind of the world a little bit, but in a new context, kind of in its own standalone story. But one of the things that they brought over was Dirk Gently. He's a holistic detective. So the whole idea is he basically just sits back when he's on a case. He just sits back and waits till all the pieces fall into place. He's not going out and like Sherlock Holmes and let's see how find all the pieces and plug them together. He's basically like, I know everything's going to come to me. I just have to kind of see where the universe takes me, and eventually I'll find everything I need. But the refrain that he keeps coming back to, and it drives all the other characters in the show crazy, because they're like, no, we need to go find the next thing. We need to go find the next thing. And he's like, when it's time, we'll find it. We don't need to rush into it. And if we go over here and we're not supposed to go over there, we'll come back this way anyway. So it's going to happen. And it gets to that line of a little close to, I'll just sit there and everything will come to you. But the refrain that he keeps coming back to, drives the other characters crazy, is, well, what if it is all connected? And so that he keeps going through this, like, says it so many times in the show. The characters are like, but this and this. And he's like, but what if it is all connected? And they're like, but it's not. This can't be. It's like, but what if it is all connected? Stop it. But so I'm sitting, watching this. Yeah, I can't really say binging because it's like 6 episodes or something. But watching this, I watched it multiple times because it was short, and it was just like, man, that was so good. But I just kept coming back to, like, man, there's so many things going on right now, and I know it's all connected. And if I had to doubt that, now I'm watching this random TV show from this book that I loved years ago that keeps reminding me several times every episode, hey, remember, what if it is all connected? So that's one of the refrains I've had over the last couple of years is, it's probably all connected. Remember, it's what if it is all connected? Don't overlook. There are patterns there. And what if it is all connected?
And that's interesting again, because if you would probably pick up on this and say, yeah, of course. How Passio, we talk about the Hermetic principles, the all is mind and the mind is all, right? All. It's right. All. When we talk about God, the creator, the source, the all. Yeah, it's all. Well, what does all represent? What does all encompass? It's all connected. Everything's connected. See, so even there, when we talk about truthers or people like, oh yes, Hermetic principle, the mind is all and all in mind. Yeah, well, everything's all connected. Well, I want to. Then you don't get it, do you? It's the same thing like with religious people. Oh, it's God. Well, it's God, and it's allowing this to happen, and us and God. And no, you're not God. We're not God. How can you claim to be God? And like, then you don't get it. You don't comprehend what the simple 3 letters of all, capital A, capital L, capital L, means. It's everything. Everything's connected. It's all yeah. So it kind of brings a smile to my face that even people who think they know, and again, like I mentioned earlier in the show with MCU people, oh, you haven't done the Disney Channel stuff? You don't know this. Oh, yes, I know everything and everything. Yeah. Yes, Hermetic principles. I know top to bottom. And so, yeah, well, everything's connected. We're all God. God is us. We're God. No, it's not like, oh, okay. I'm gonna stand over. I'll wait for you to catch up.
and that's where anytime you fall out of alignment with that understanding of the allness of it, what do you need to get back into alignment? You need at one mint. You need to come back to atonement. You need to come back to a realization, the mental realization that we're at once one and all is all. And anytime you're outside of that, you're not in atonement. You're not in one mint. You're not in the mind space of connection. And, that could be one way to describe the opposition or adversary to the oneness. And that could be one way to describe the satanic mindset, the satanic outlook. It's thinking that, no, somehow I'm not part of the one. I'm different. I'm better. I'm set aside. I'm, okay, your ego would like to think that because it's comforting. But in order to realize the truth, you have to have some at-one-ment or atonement. So we'll connect that in there as well.
Yeah. Now I want to see that Keira Knightley, James McAvoy movie, maybe. I think those two were in a film in the mid-90s that was up for Best Picture called Atonement. And it is a story. It is a story about this couple, this guy and a girl love each other during World War I, World War II or something. And he's a soldier or something. And then there's this young girl that wants to stay, I think either when they come to visit or something like that during the war, that somebody's staying at somebody's house. And there's this little girl and she wants to spend more time with, I guess, the female or the guy or something somewhere in there. And this little girl tells a lie to keep them separated. And that affects the rest of their life, where this couple never gets back together, even though they loved each other. But it was this young little girl that told a lie and it separated them. And then like 30, 40, 50 years later, she's telling the story about how these people, they're old now, old in their 60s or whatever, and they never stopped loving each other, but they were never together. And this one girl, it's her story of atonement for the one time that she told a lie that derailed the lives of these two people. So it's like, wow. So it's pretty, again, now that ties into cause and effect, consequentialism. That one lie just deviated two people that were meant to be together, but you fucked it up for everybody. And then the rest of your life trying to atone to bring that to I don't know how you fix that, but it's like, oh, okay, now at least you're 60 years old. I'm sorry, I lied. Come back together. Like, dude, the best years of their lives is gone. It's like, yeah. So atonement.
Interesting. See, the name of that movie sounds familiar, but I'm sure I've never seen it.
Yep.
I have to put it on the list.
There you go. I need to go back and see it. I know it's one before I woke up. Like I said, mid-90s. I remember seeing it. And our house film, indie film. What the fuck? But now, like, hey, the name and the story. I was like, shit. I bet if we watch it now, we'll be like, wow, that's a good film. Be responsible for what you say, even if it's a little white lie or something. You don't know the effects it can have. And talking about effect, I mentioned one of my previous podcasts that I had seen The Butterfly Effect, the Ashton Kutcher one. And that was interesting, even though the sci-fi kind of took it a little bit like, oh, the books, he was keeping a journal or a diary, whatever, of his life events from being a little kid. And he would go back and read that. And somehow reading it, it would take him back to that time as a kid, but he'd have the adult consciousness and he would change what he did. And hence the butterfly effect would change the future. So consequence. So yeah, that was pretty interesting there too.
Yeah, I remember watching that movie shortly after it came out. It might be another one to rewatch again with new eyes, because that was, I think that came out that summer. I was working at the Blockbuster Video, which talk about things.
Wow, what a difference! See the programming. Do you remember that? That was part of the commercial. Blockbuster Video. Wow, what a difference! I'm in my programming. At least I can. They're kind of compartmentalized. They're there. I'm so proud of myself that I actually had the theme for DreamWorks. It was like I had it in there.
That's, and I recognized it right away, but I couldn't have done it. No, like that was pretty good. But yeah, like the man says, even my conditioning's been conditioned, and that's again. So if you can be aware of it, you can deal with it.
That's exactly, and that's the thing. A lot of people have all the programming and conditioning that they have no awareness of, and they don't realize that the choices they make in life are not their choices. Those are the programs they're running. At least you want to at least get to a point where you're aware of that, and that's where you get some form of control or dominion over yourself. But like, hey, usually, wait a minute. Was that what I wanted to do, or is that what I was programmed? Wait a minute. Let me contemplate this a little more and think. Yeah, and that's it. A documentary worth seeing. Ghetto Physics. If you could find that. If not, let me know. I have it downloaded, or I have purchased it digitally, and I can upload it and send you the file so you can watch it. Good documentary, Ghetto Physics. And like the title says, ghetto. People think the hood, the slums, or whatever. But yeah, it's physics. It's truth. There's this stuff, but they put it in, ghetto lingo. So it talks about pimps and hoes. It's like, why are you talking about pimps and hoes and prostitutes? Like, no, that's a master and a slave, the boss and the employee, the pimp and the hoe, and how you either identify as one or the other. It's like, oh, we're all slaves. No, we're all pimps. We all slip in and out of that position without realizing it. Master and slave, we're all in that. And I always use the example of when it comes to money and me going to the movie theater. I go to work, I'm the hoe, I'm the slave because I'm working for the money. Get paid. Okay, now I get paid. But guess what? When I go to the movie theater, now I'm the pimp, I'm the master, because I go ahead and I pay the person behind the concession stand. Give me that popcorn, give me that, that iced tea and this and that. And I see, so I'm the master. You do as I say because I'm paying. So we all float in and out of the master slave or the pimp and hoe thing. And it's like, wow. And then when they blow it up into the big thing, the big pimps and hoes, the governments, corporations, and all the rest of us. So it's very good documentary.
Cool.
Ghetto Physics.
Check that one out for sure.
Yep.
Well, I think I'm about talked out here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm looking, 3:43, had a few minutes down right there. So a little over 3.5 hours.
And we didn't even touch on, what we touched on, we didn't even talk about music, really.
Yeah, barely, just a little bit. So, yeah. Oh, and I wanted to point out to you here in your notes, I was laughing because I know you typed this up pretty quick, but let me read it. I don't know if you keep this in the recording. Andy sent me something here and it says, and what are some of the examples of films that have helped you or informed you on your journey of discovery to ultimately doing the Greta work?
The Greta work.
I was just laughing. I was like, hey, Greta Thunberg made it in here. I want to do the Greta work.
That's funny.
Climate change, Greta. Isn't that amazing, right? How just 2 little letters switched around from great to Greta work.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wouldn't pick up on that because it's capitalized for a name. That's funny. The Greta work.
Wait, wait, who are you? What are your actual intentions here? What's the term? Are you a shill? Are you an implant? Yes. Does Mark Passionozzi has a
I'm from
Greta,
the one Greta
shill?
I'm from the one Greta work network. What if it's all connected? What if it's all connected to Greta?
It is all Greta. That's it. Greta.
I feel bad for Greta. I don't think she ever had a chance.
I know, right? Well, the puppets,
and her parents. Just...
Again, awareness. See, it's like if she were aware, she had like you for a grandparent or someone like, hey, what's going on? Hey, you might want to be careful with this. You might want to research on your own. Nope. Just do as you're told. This and that. Go here, go there. Support this. Do that. Like, yep.
Well, Greta, if you're watching, there's still time to get out and find the truth.
It's never too late.
You can do the one great work. The one great work.
See, I just kind of I reprogrammed you now. Now you're like, wait, 404 error. It's Greta work.
All right, my friend. Well, this was a pleasure.
Yep. Same here.
Feel free to reach out, say hi, whatever. Just really appreciate your time today. This was way longer than I expected and even better than I thought it would be. So thank you.
Glad to hear it. No problem. Yeah, I need to come back. We'll do this again, and maybe we'll actually specify a couple of things to be like, yeah, let's hit this and that, even though we had a nice long, what is it? Interview notes.
Yeah.
But yeah. even just having like a handful of things and then we just flesh it out and get in there because, like I said, everything's connected. But yeah, even some specific movies and songs and things.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe if you have a couple of movie songs that you're like, you know what, I don't think you guys ever mentioned these songs. I like this and a handful of songs. I'll throw it by Francesco and say, hey, if we do another volume, got Andy over here. He's got some tracks we can lay out. And since you know about movies too, once I get that Guy Next Door Speaks on films, TV, and music, can go ahead and have you on and we can break some stuff down.
Yeah, that'd be great. Happy to be considered. I'll start a little note and list and jot down some ideas for music, because I've already, you know, just saying that, it's like, well, there's 2 or 3 songs right off the top of my head, and some of them kind of mainstream. And that's one of the things I feel like there's some mainstream songs out there that people just didn't pay attention to the lyrics to, just didn't really pay attention to the lyrics, or mainstream bands that had a song that didn't get any radio play because, oh, that was a little too close to truth for.
Or it could be right out in the open and people are like, well, it depends how you interpret it.
Right.
Like, no, sometimes it depends how you interpret it, but sometimes it's like, no, just listen to it. And it's like, could it be that simple? Could it just be that much in the open? You know, just like that Star is Born film.
Yeah.
There's that one track by Bradley Cooper. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die. What have I been saying? What were we talking about? Chip away everything that's there. Let the old ways die. And you see, naturally, it's like, oh, this is the way we should be. He made a song about it. You know, let the old ways die. But no, over people's heads, like, well, what's he? Forget that.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, so yeah. So if this is towards the end right here, yeah, I'm on the One Great Work Network, Ivan Oyola, and then my website, freeyourmindaz.com. And yep, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, MeWe, and every once in a while I just either on Twitter I'll see some stuff, copy paste, share it on MeWe and Facebook. On Facebook, see some stuff, copy paste, share it on Twitter and MeWe, and that's it. Just start spreading it around. And I bet you I can make a nice good hour or 2 podcast of just going over these memes. And like we brought up earlier, once you have the algorithms that it's like, oh, this is all we're kind of connected to, you know, receiving this, it's a whole bunch of good memes. I was like, wow, that's a good message. That's a good message. That's funny, but true. That's a good message. And I'm sure we can go ahead and do a show where it's like, check this out. And instead of dissecting movies, TV shows, and music, dissecting memes. Look at this. Like, how much truth is in this picture? How much truth is in this sentence? I'm just like, holy crap. And that's the thing. Instead of just little cats and look at the pretty little cat. Like, no, there's a whole bunch of stuff that, again, the tools are neutral. It's depending who's utilizing that tool for what purpose, you know?
100%. Yep. Well, and thank you once again for joining me, and encourage everyone to check out your work on your website, freeyourmindaz.com, onegreatworknetwork.com. Ivan Oyola, a pleasure. Hope to do this again soon.
All right, Andy. New friend. We're there, man. We're there.
Awesome, man.
Take care, man.
You. Take care.
All right. And we're out, and I didn't even use the video clips that I had told you about. I don't know if you've seen them. Let me screen share. I'll play this for you.
For it.
Check this shit out. Well, let me click it. Where the hell is it? Okay. All right. This is from 2 TV shows. Let me put it to play here so that, and then I can screen share this. using VLC Media Player. Share sound. And I don't like the zoom. When you share sound now, it does it mono. You got to select the little arrow and it'll say mono or stereo high fidelity. And now there it is, stereo high fidelity. I'm like, you bastards. All right, so I'm going to share the screen. This is from a TV show, Mr. In Between. Have you seen or heard of that show?
I have not.
That was on FX. And it's a, are you getting my whole screen or just a VLC Media Player?
Whole screen.
Let me go ahead. I'm going to stop that. I'll go ahead and just, and click it. There it is. All right, now VLC Media Player.
Yep.
So this is a clip from one of the seasons. It was only 3 seasons, short shows, like 40 minutes, 8 episode seasons on FX. It's from Australian show with the accent and everything. But let me just play this clip, 2 minutes and a half. Listen to it, and I know you're going to be like, wow. Volume's up.
Ray, how many people, if you had to guess, how many people would you say that you've assaulted?
Heaps.
Now, how do you feel about that?
Fine, had it coming, so.
And what did they do?
Oh, it depends. I mean, I'm pretty big on just respect. So, like, if you respect me, I respect you. You know, if you don't, we got a problem.
Well, let's talk about the most recent assault, the one with the 2 youths.
No, I only bashed one of them, and they weren't youths, they were like in their 20s.
Well, let's call them young men then.
Yeah, so I was walking down the street with my daughter, and 2 guys come along, bumped into her, and she had an ice cream and, dropped her ice cream and...
So you assaulted him?
Well, no, they started swearing. She's only 8, so...
So you bashed him while your daughter was just standing there?
No, not while she was standing there. I bashed him later.
Okay, well, how did you feel afterwards, after it all happened?
Fine.
Do you enjoy hitting people?
I wouldn't say I enjoy hitting people. You know, if I hit somebody, I generally got a pretty good reason.
And you think you had a good reason?
Did I just say that?
So can you remind me again what that reason was?
Well, they were being arseholes.
The world is full of assholes, Ray. You do realise that?
Yeah, and you know why?
Why?
Because people let them get away with it. So if you're in jail, right, and you fuck with somebody, you disrespect somebody, you can end up dead. There's consequences. But out here in the real world, there's no consequences, right? So next time these 2 pricks are walking down the street and they start thinking, oh, we might go and fuck with somebody, they're going to think twice about it, which is good for everybody.
So in your mind, you've done society a favour?
Yeah.
Well, I guess on behalf of society, I should say thank you.
Yep, I think that was, again, cause and effect, and he's right.
Good.
The world is full of assholes. Why? Because we let them get away with it. See, and that's the thing. It's like, well, no, violence against violence. No, people are doing wrong. Check them, call them on it, and see how people say, whoa, wait a minute, maybe I should. But if nobody's calling anybody out on their bullshit, we got the world that we have. People just getting away with shit. Like, oh man, somebody should. Well, yeah, everybody should. We shouldn't tolerate all the bullshit. The assholes. That's why we got so many assholes. People let them get away with shit. So yeah, I like that clip. That was like, oh, truth. Hello.
Yep, that's good. That's very good.
And then one other clip. This is from a recent one show on Amazon. I think Amazon has it, Reacher. So I don't know if you watched that one.
I heard of that one. But
okay.
No,
so Tom Cruise had 2 movies, Jack Reacher, and then Jack Reacher, whatever the hell it was. I forgot. So now there's a TV show and they have this different actor playing the character. And so this was pretty interesting too. Let me go ahead and play this. Where the hell is it?
If we're going to see this thing through, I need to know what kind of person I'm working with. So what happened in Baghdad, Reacher?
It wasn't Baghdad. It was a small village 40 clicks north. I was tracking an AWOL PFC. A group of boys, 10, 11 years old, played soccer in a bombed-out hangar every day. Whenever they'd see me, they'd wave. I waved back. One night it got real late, they hadn't returned. Between insurgents and IEDs, I wanted to make sure they got home safe. I went back to the hangar so they wouldn't have to walk back alone. 3 men from the village were abusing the boys. You can fill in the blanks. I sent the kids away, but stayed to give the adults a choice. They could turn themselves in to Iraqi police or they'd answer to me. I knew they'd come for me. So when they did, I was ready.
How did KJ know about this?
Clanners have money. Money buys access and information. So, you have a problem with me killing people who hurt children? Because I want to know the kind of person I'm working with.
No. I guess I don't.
Good. Now let's get to the airport and dump these bodies.
More truth, right? Harsh truth. People new age, you like, I had so much negativity in it. Oh my God. But it was all the right, it's like, look, these guys abusing kids, turn yourselves in or you got to deal with me. Oh, they came from me. I took them out. So he killed civilians. Oh, what happened over there? You killed civilians. Context. This is what happened. You still have a problem with me? Do you have emotions and feel bad about pedophiles that abuse children or what? Because I need to know the type of person I'm dealing with. Oh, yeah, we're good. You did the right thing. See, little things like that. It's in the mainstream. This is on a TV show. They put it out there, but how many people take that in, process it, and be like, oh, that's good, man. We should start. Yeah, that's good. Nope. And when they're like, oh, that was good. It's just a TV show, though. Don't apply that to real life. Like,
yeah.
So that and Mr. In Between both had messages showing like, look, we're the ones responsible for the world that we live in by what we allow or what we don't allow to happen.
Yeah. Have you seen The Art of Self-Defense?
Yeah, I saw. Yeah.
Kind of made me think.
Talk about abuse. Talk about abuse. It's like taught them how to do it. And now everything like with the boss. What you want? Boom. It's like, dude. It was like, come on now.
Made me think of that a little bit. That movie. Yep.
So those two clips, one I think I already used in a show way back before, but when I come up with the new show, I'll probably go back and reference these clips, insert them somewhere and be like, yeah, see, those are some of the positive things that you see on the mainstream. And again, Devlin's heavy on this, talking about the karmic, well, they got to put it out there because for karma, they believe in this karmic, oh, we told you what the right answer was or what should be done, but if you guys didn't, yeah, exactly. So, oh, well,
yeah,
not our fault. We tried to be good. We tried to give you a warning or, the message. It's like, yeah, okay.